The Denver Broncos must find a way to bounce back this week against the Chicago Bears. It becomes a must-win game for them. How are they going to do that? We'll dive deep into that and what they need to do on today's brand new episode, Locked on Broncos.
You are Locked on Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Denver Broncos must respond against the Chicago Bears this week in week 4 of the NFL action. How might they do that? We'll dive deep into that on today's episode, Locked on Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much, Broncos Country, for tuning in, making us your first listen of the day. Every single day, you can get this podcast for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. So do us a favor, hit that subscribe or follow button down below so you never miss out on a day's worth of Broncos news, content, coverage, analysis, and more. Every single day, all year long, whether the team's really bad, whether the team's really good, we got you covered every step of the way. I'm Cody Roark, Broncos reporter for Mile High Sports, joined alongside, as always, by Sayre Bedinger, site expert, predominantlyorange.com here. Sayre, my friend, now it's back to basics, right? You got to flush the Miami Dolphins game down the pity potty. It is what it is. It was embarrassing. It's done. It's over with. Burn some sage. Now it's on to the Chicago Bears here in week 4. And obviously, as we build up to the game, there'll be a crossover episode with Sayre and Lauren Cox, host of the Locked on Bears podcast, a little bit later on this week here on Crossover Thursday. But Denver's got to get back to it. And Sayre, I think the number one thing from my perspective as a former player and a coach, I'm putting it out here this week. The Broncos must take this week personally. Not to take a page out of Deion and CU, but they got to take this week personally after the drubbing they got this past Sunday against the Dolphins.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Like you said, I mean, yes, flush it down the pity potty, burn some sage, whatever you got to do, but keep this one kind of at the forefront of your mind as well. Like, don't get psyched out about it, but certainly remember the fact that you're now the team, and you, as part of the Denver Broncos defense, you're part of history in the worst possible way. You will always be on film getting blasted by the A-chain, right? You will always be on film getting Raheem Mostert crossing you up like Allen Iverson in 2002. You'll always be on film with Tyreek Hill blazing by. You'll always be that group. And so what do you got to do now? Well, you got to make sure that it doesn't happen again, right? And you got to make sure that you not only fix things, but like go the complete opposite direction. You need to turn 180 degrees the other way and sprint. So I hope that, Cody, they do take this personal. I hope it was hard for them to watch film on Monday and Tuesday. And whenever they do decide to have a ceremony to burn that tape, I still hope that these guys keep it at the forefront of their minds. Like, man, we're the defense that gave up 70 points and we're getting paid to do this. Like, this is ridiculous. And so I hope that they do take it personal, but obviously wash that feeling away. Just go out and use it now as a chip on your shoulder.
Well, now they prepare to face Justin Fields, who is going through his own struggles this season. Chicago is, I mean, the conversation right now nationally is between the Broncos and the Bears. Look, there's a variety of 0-3 teams. Everyone has the Broncos and Bears really kind of at the bottom of the barrel right now after what has happened here this week. You look on some of the national media talking shows, that's exactly what they are discussing here. You still have Rex Ryan pandering for a job from Sean Payton, not like it's going to make much of a difference here at this point. But Justin Fields is a player who is struggling right now, who's taking, a beating in the media, taking a beating during the games. And one of the things that he still can do, despite his struggles, right? The throwing game is not very consistent for them, but he still has the ability to go off and to run. And one thing that Sean Payton told us during Monday's conference call is that the Broncos didn't do a very good job against the Dolphins of setting the edge, keeping edge contained against some of the designs that they were running here. And you see some of the wide zone stuff that Miami capitalized on. Chicago is going to look at this tape that the Broncos put on against the Miami Dolphins, and they're going to take some bits and pieces from that and say, okay, hey, they're not very good at this. Let's attack this weakness. At least if you're a good coordinator, which right now that's come under a lot of fire with the Chicago Bears. But Justin Fields is a player who can still go off and use his legs, be a big-time playmaker, and he could hurt the Broncos. Look, Denver's coming off a game where they allowed 350 rush yards. You don't think Justin Fields is going to, and the Chicago Bears are going to try to exploit that a little bit? That's where Denver's going to have to really key in this week against Chicago.
Yeah, going to have to make sure that secondary pass rush is really good. If the first guy doesn't get there, the second guy can't miss, right? Because that Justin Fields is going to be able to extend plays. He always has been able to do that, dating back to his time at Ohio State. So Yeah, I'm sure the Bears are kind of licking their chops in a similar way the Broncos might be, of both of these teams thinking, hey, we could get back on track this week. Like we could get some positive momentum. Like this is a defense that gave up 70, or from the Broncos perspective, like this is a defense that just gave up 40 plus to the Chiefs in what, 3 quarters roughly. So I think right now these two teams are probably both thinking, hey, this is a get right opportunity for us. And hopefully all due respect to the Bears, hopefully it's not them who's getting right this week, because that would be, can you imagine, Cody, after all we've
The takes.
seen, the takes, it would be another new rock bottom of the Broncos continually find ways to go deeper and deeper down in that trench. So really, yes, it is about limiting Justin Fields and making sure that he can't hurt you with his mobility. And I think also just too making sure, like, you are professionals. You cannot sleepwalk through the rest of this season. You have to go out there and like we've been talking about, burn the sage, wash the taste out of your mouth, get back on track. Don't be the team that lets every other team have their best game against you, right? That feels kind of like what the Broncos have been in recent years. Like they make certain guys look like all pros, and then they go out the next week, like Sam Howell, and throw 4 interceptions. And it's like, wait, where was that guy when we played against him? Are we just that bad? The Broncos have to prove that, against the Bears, especially a team that's pretty bad this year and was bad last year, they got to prove that they're not truly that bad.
I'm glad that you brought up the point about them not sleepwalking through the rest of the season, right? Because Sean Payton also said, he told us on the conference call on Monday, when you experience a butt whooping like that, you're going to learn a lot about your coaches. You're going to learn a lot about your team and the players inside the locker room. So I'm very curious to see what the mentality is here this week. And Payton even said himself that some of their in practice stuff that they're doing needs to be better, like their attention to detail. I'm very curious to see what the vibe is like. And obviously, Denver will be back on the practice field on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They'll probably leave Friday night to go to Chicago. But man, Denver's got to get this taste out of their mouth. And it's going to take a couple of weeks to do so. But if you can string off some wins here, Denver has, once again, a chance to change the narrative. Despite being 0-3, there's still 14 games left in the season. Well, Broncos country, one reason the Broncos can turn things around and one player who can be a catalyst with that hasn't been featured as much. We'll talk about what's going on with Marvin Mims and why the Broncos aren't using him as much on the offensive side of the ball. You're going to get that on today's episode, Locked On Broncos. Today's episode of Locked On Broncos is brought to you by our friends over there, eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or you're scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you with players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Vinny has picked out for us on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. Denver Broncos running back Javonte Williams has gotten a healthy 48 opportunities throughout the team's first 3 games, but so far he's only managed 180 scrimmage yards and 0 touchdowns during the team's 0-3 start. Expect the volume to finally convert into true fantasy production for Javonte Williams as Denver gets the wilting Bears defense in Chicago here in week 4. The Bears have given up plenty of overall yardage and scoring juice to running backs through the first 3 weeks of the season, and Javonte Williams will be the latest to take advantage as a runner and an outlet receiver. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure that your ride stays running smoothly every single day with eBay Motors. eBay Motors, they have brake kits. They have LED headlights for your vehicle, for your car. They also have roof racks. They have bumpers. Whatever your ride needs, they have it for you at eBay Motors. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every single time, or you get your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Marvin Mims is the Denver Broncos big play in a short amount of time, Cody, maybe even becoming one of the team's superstars, I would say. I mean, he has set this team on track to potentially do some great things offensively. and he needs some more playing time. I feel like we need to see more number 19 out there blazing by defenders for the Denver Broncos, and we're going to talk all about that. But before we do, want to just say, hey, thank you to every single one of you that makes Locked On Broncos your first listen of the day, every single day, wherever you listen to podcasts, free and available everywhere, as well as you can watch Cody and I on YouTube. So if you're bringing us with you on your morning commute, if you're sitting on the couch at night and your day is winding down, if you're working out at the gym, on the treadmill, whatever you're doing, however you choose to make us part of your day, we're so grateful that you do so, especially for you everydayers out there who rock with Locked On Broncos every single day, who jump into the comments section, who provide just some great insight, good vibes. You encourage Cody and I. By the way, that means a lot to us. For those of you that just give us shout outs and encourage us, that means the world to us to just have your feedback and just the consistent ones, Cody. I really appreciate all of them. And it's, I know you do too. And I think Marvin Mims becoming a consistent one for us. We've talked about him in a good way for the last couple weeks. And I feel like maybe here in week 3, hopefully we see another increase, not just in role, but maybe snap count and maybe targets as well.
I think you can look at the tape so far through 3 weeks. You can even look in the preseason. You look at Marvin Mims. He is easily by far the team's most explosive player with the most explosive play capability on the Broncos offense. And that's not a slight. That's just the fact of the it's the truth. And what did we hear from Sean Payton and George Payton when they drafted him? Our vision for him was he's an explosive player, can help us on offense, can help us in the return game. And man, he's been great on offense. Gosh, he's been great in the return game. I mean, week 2, he had a 45-yard punt return. Last week, we saw a 99-yard kick return from him. And then we've seen some downfield plays. His speed is legit. And you and I were talking about this, I believe, on yesterday's episode of the show where, you look at Tyreek Hill and how the Dolphins use him. Obviously, he's a great player. He's got the most dangerous speed in the entire NFL. There's nobody faster than Tyreek Hill in the National Football League. There's some guys that maybe have the ability to be close. There's some guys on the Dolphins that have clocked some higher miles per hour so far this season than Tyreek. But what does that do for defenses? It puts them on high alert. Like, oh, hey, where's number 10 going? Oh, he's going in motion. He's motioning to the slot. What does that mean? It means, hey, most dangerous man on the field here. And I look at Marvin Mims, and I just see his speed. When you watch him on that kick return that he had there, you can see the kicker kind of give up. But you saw the back end guys are taking great angles, right? You're always coached that, hey, if the return's going up the sideline away from you, you got to take a really massive angle, maybe about 145-degree angle to be able to try to get in trail technique. Those guys were running as hard as they could, and they were not even getting anywhere close to Marvin Mims. And it looked so easy. Marvin Mims looked like he was jogging. Like, that's how crazy it was, the speed differential between these guys. And so for me, it's like, all right, you see that dynamic. How many times are we going to see teams really trying to afford a kick return opportunity, especially now to Marvin? The ideal thing is, hey, let's just kick it out of the back of the end zone. Let's not let this guy return it. There will be times he gets there, and Denver special teams has been good. But this is why the Broncos drafted Marvin Mims, Sayre. It's to play on the offensive side of the ball, to give them a true downfield, legitimate speed threat that they've been looking for years. They finally have it. And to me, Sayre, look back at Miami's game. Yes, Denver is getting blown out there. 15 total snaps on offense. You played 24% of the team's offensive snaps. To me, that's inexcusable. That's on Sean Payton. And I'm very curious, is that a Payton thing? Is that a call on him? Or is that just, hey, we're going to roll with Brandon Johnson, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton? In my opinion, nothing against Brandon Johnson at all. I think Brandon Johnson has done a tremendous job stepping up. But Marvin Mims was a guy you drafted in the second round to be an impact player. He needs to be out there on the field with Cortland and Jerry, because that will open up, I think, in my opinion, opportunities for those guys to see even more production. And then if those guys are eating, you know what it does? It makes defenses try to focus their defensive coverage on that. And that's where Marvin Mims can hit you with the big playability. I'm lost for words why we're not seeing more Marvin Mims. But Sean Payton, if you're watching this, get Marvin the Rock.
That's right. I think take the training wheels off here in the near future. Maybe there's a method to the madness just in terms of what he's been through, maybe in the past with guys in terms of getting them involved quickly. Maybe it's just that acclimation process. But look, the Broncos are now at a point where, man, you really can't afford to not have your best players out there on the field. And especially in a game where, yes, you want to put some confidence behind Brandon Johnson because, man, he made one of the best plays or one of the best catches I've seen in recent memory. Unfortunately, it's going to go down as a play that doesn't exist because of a penalty. that he committed on the play by going out of bounds. So yeah, you want to give him opportunities as well. But I agree with you, Cody. I think we want to see Marvin Mims out there the majority of the time, certainly more than 25% of the time when you're talking about overall snap count and percentage of the plays that you're getting. I love what he brings to the table. And I'm just, as you were talking, I'm sitting here just dreaming about, man, that vertical speed of Marvin Mims in combination with the route quickness and the ability to separate as Jerry Jeudy. Just think of those two guys on the same side of the field and really working and playing off of each other. Like, who do you guard in those situations? And so, Cody, I know this may come as a shock, but I'm actually all for the Broncos giving less targets to, for sure, Brandon Johnson, but maybe even Cortland Sutton. Maybe a little bit of a hot take there for some people, but I wouldn't mind seeing them go less to Sutton and more to guys like Marvin Mims and Jerry Jeudy, because like we've been saying, 25% of the snaps, that's about 25% at a minimum too low, in my opinion.
Well, and the thing is you look at, I forgot who put it out there on Twitter. It's talking about the Broncos' 10 biggest gains of the season. Marvin Mims has 8 of the Broncos' 10 longest plays, whether it's in the receiving game, a rushing game, or even in the return game. He's got 8 out of the 10 plays. One of those plays that is not to him is to Brandon Johnson on the 50-yard Hail Mary. That's it. I mean, so he is a big play downfield threat here. And you have to find a way to maximize your personnel. And almost in a sense, right, Sayre, you always know the saying, less is more. I think more is more here, right? More Marvin Mims means more opportunities here for the Broncos offense to go through and find the success that they've been looking for here. They haven't had stretches where they've been consistent with, utilizing how the offense is. You talked about how good Russell Wilson played. Russ played a really good game. And shout out to our friend Tim Jenkins, who did a breakdown over on his channel talking about this was Russell Wilson's best game that he's played there. He's graded since he's became a member of the Denver Broncos. And you have to look at more than just the stat box. You have to look at what he's doing, how he's doing at ball placement, accuracy, what he's doing, bracing for contact. Russ did a lot of those things, and Marvin Mims can unlock a little bit more here. Now, Sayre, I also think the Broncos maybe have to pivot to a point where maybe they look to, if they win the toss, rather than deferring, maybe they just receive the ball. That way they can go downfield, score points, and then, they could just try to match there versus, kicking the ball away, giving up a touchdown defensively, and then having to crawl your way back in. That might be a new strategy here for Sean Payton and the Broncos here going forward. But I'm with you. You got to find a way to use Marvin Mims even more. You can use him, I think, even more. Can you put him in that spot maybe where Tim Patrick was, right? Because here's the thing. When Brandon Johnson went down with the ankle injury in training camp, Marvin Mims stepped into that role. So why not use him there more? I understand he's a rookie, but you don't draft a guy like this just to let him ride the pine and have a couple of snaps here and there and make some big plays. Say, you know what? Well, he got a couple of big plays. Increase the volume here, and I think it does wonders for Denver's offense.
I think so too, Cody, 100%. And look, I think that's something that the Broncos are going to have to. I love the idea that you just had there of not deferring to the second half. Of course, you love to get the ball to start the third quarter, but at the same time, it doesn't matter much if you're down 35 to 10 was it? Or 35-13. So not that that's going to happen every single week, but I do like that idea and really just making sure you set the tone with your playmakers right up front.
Denver needs to find a way to do that a little bit more. Do you agree with us, Broncos Country, about Marvin Mims, his utilization? If so, let us know if you're watching on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. We appreciate you so much. One thing we're going to dive deeper into here is another area where the Broncos simply need more contributions from, and that's the interior defensive line. You're going to get that on today's episode, Locked On Broncos. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by our friends over there at Jace Medical. Modern medical care and treatment are important, but our global supply chains are fragile. Things like pandemics, natural disasters, and foreign travel may cut you off from the treatment that you need. If you've ever been in a situation where you were in pain and needed medication, but your doctor was out of town, or you couldn't get in to see a physician because there were no appointments for days, we've all been there before, but Jace Medical is the perfect way to counteract a situation like that from happening. Jace Medical is your solution, and it's simple. Just fill out an online form, and one of Jace Medical's board-certified physicians will review it to determine whether medications are safe and appropriate. Then they send you your prescriptions to one of their partner pharmacies where your Jace order will be filled, and life-saving medications will be mailed directly to your home. I filled out the form online. I was able to get my Jace case in just 3 days from the time I submitted the order and the online form there. So they get it directly to you in a quick fashion. Not only that, but you can send your physician a message for answers to treatment-related questions anytime. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical Plus and an additional $20 off by using my code LOCKEDON at checkout at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. As we jump into the fourth quarter action on today's episode, Locked On Broncos, just want to say thank you so much once again, Broncos Country, for tuning in, making us your first listen of the day. Every single day, you can get this podcast for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for rocking with us, even during these difficult times where the Broncos are off to an 0-3 start here. We've been very resolution-based, I think, on today's episode. What we want to see the Broncos do a little bit more of here, especially as they look to rebound against the Chicago Bears. Part of it is also the Broncos have to be a lot better on the interior defensive line. Sayre, outside of maybe week 1 where they stopped Josh Jacobs, I can confidently say the last 2 weeks, week 2 and week 3, Denver's defensive line on the interior, it's given me more concern than anything else. I'm not concerned about edge rusher. I'm more concerned about the interior defensive line because you got guys there like DJ Jones. You brought in Zach Allen. These guys are supposed to be difference makers for you. So far, we haven't really seen much of an impact through 3 weeks of play.
Right, which is really, really disappointing. And we've seen it in a variety of ways, right? We've seen the lack of pass rush from the interior defensive line. Now we've seen them give up 350 rushing yards to a team in a single game. So it's really all encompassing bad. And I know we talked up Marcus Dixon in the offseason, the defensive line coach. I don't necessarily think that he's the one that's at fault here, but these players got to go out and they've got to be tougher. I mean, everyone's seen the screenshot that's floating around of 7 Broncos defenders laying down on the ground and the A-chain running in the background, running off to his, 18th touchdown of the day. So these interior defensive linemen, they're not protecting the linebackers. They're not winning at the line of scrimmage. They're not winning as pass rushers. They're not getting good enough leverage. They're not making plays behind the line of scrimmage. Cody, stop me when you're ready for me to be done, because we haven't seen any of it from these guys. It's been such a disappointment based on the amount of money they're getting paid. And I think really something has to turn around for these guys first and foremost. It's cliche to say, well, you got to win at the line of scrimmage. You got to win in the trenches. But man, are the Broncos not the shining example of exactly why that's true? They're just not doing it. So against a Bears team, struggles in the offensive line department, maybe again, an opportunity to get right.
Well, here's the thing too. Mike Purcell's probably been the one defensive lineman on the interior that's actually probably been the best guy on that line there. I mean, there was times he's gotten some quarterback pressures. He's stopped the run here, but you make a great point too, because it's not just solely on the interior defensive lineman. Like obviously they're a big part of Denver stopping the run because they have to anchor down. They have to step into a gap, but then it's also, if they're not doing that and if they're getting sealed by the defensive line, they're allowing, a guard, if they're doing a double team, guard center double team on a one tech, they're allowing that guy to float up to get to the inside linebacker on the play side. And that's leading to obviously a linebacker going up against an offensive lineman, not being able to get off that block. That creates a hole. It creates 4 or 5 more yards in terms of an ability for a running back to run. This is a huge defensive problem right now. And I think a lot of it could be scheme, because there's times going back on the film, I understand the need. You have to at times stunt and you have to send different looks, but Denver's doing these twist stunts. At times it doesn't make sense, but it's also to the point where they're doing these twist stunts with 2 guys and they're going to the same spot, which leaves, bam, B gap, wide open. That is a huge issue. And look, I think teams are going to, until Denver finds a way to buckle down, until Vance Joseph coaches it a little bit better here, Denver's going to be exploited in that department. And look, you mentioned it. The Chicago Bears offensive line is a unit that's struggling in pass protection. They're struggling to get the run game going for them. But Denver isn't doing a very good job defensively either, and they're going to have to find a way to get there. And look, this is also another question. Like DJ Jones was brought in to be a guy. And like last year, I thought DJ Jones, he and Draymond Jones worked really well with one another. It doesn't seem like DJ Jones and Zach Allen, or even like DJ Jones, Jonathan Harris, for example, these guys have not looked good so far through 3 weeks of play here on the defensive line. To me, that's an issue. That's an area, if I'm an offensive coordinator, I'm looking to exploit that in matchups that are coming up. And look, you got the Chicago Bears. You got the New York Jets that are going through their struggles right now as is. Then you got Kansas City. And it's just like, geez Louise, like the gauntlet of what's could be coming in the run game. kind of scary to think about if Denver doesn't get this right.
Yeah, they don't really have a lot of time to quickly get things figured. They've got to do it rapidly. They've got to get things figured out against the Bears, like we've been saying, and really get your confidence back. And I think it starts with these interior defensive linemen. You brought in DJ Jones because why? He was one of the best run stoppers in the NFL with the San Francisco 49ers. And Zach Allen, he made a lot of plays behind the line of scrimmage for the Arizona Cardinals. So it's not like it's foreign to these guys to be effective in this regard, but at the same time, we're not seeing it. Like you said, maybe not necessarily playing well off of each other, and that being a factor here. And of course, the Broncos just they as I hate to even say it, we talked about this in the lead up to the season. Interior defensive line was arguably, in our opinions, the weakest position on the roster. And just, we're seeing it unfold here in the regular season early on. It's just not, even though you've invested in those bigger free agents, there's not enough depth and there's not enough talent. You missed on some draft picks. Yoma Uwazurike suspended. Matt Henningsen maybe not necessarily taking that next step. Jonathan Harris, a great story, but is he really the guy that you want out there playing 70% of the snaps? I think these are fair questions to ask, as we've all been waiting, hopefully, for this team to turn things around and being told, hey, next man up, or hey, trust in the development of these guys, or we buy Marcus Dixon as the D-line coach for player development. There's valid questions being asked, and I think it's fair for us to expect these guys to figure things out quickly.
And if it doesn't get better, Sarah, like I'm not opposed and I'm completely on board with you. Talk about development. Let's see what PJ Mustipher brings to the table. Let's see what Elijah Garcia brings to the table if they get a little bit more of an elevated role. Like you have, if what you're doing is not working, you at some point you have to make changes or you have to maybe make modifications to it. I don't know. Like I said, it's 3 weeks into the season. There's still a lot of room to grow here. But Denver doesn't have much time to wait and see if they can get out of this 0-3 hole because the schedule gets tougher. The opponents are going to get a lot tougher here on the schedule, and the circumstances may change for you. So if you have to go with a committee approach on the defensive line, you might have to do that. You might have to figure out, okay, hey, we might need less of these guys this week at this position on offense. We're going to go with these guys in terms of elevation there. I don't have any answers for it right now, but that's an area on this team that absolutely has to get better. And Broncos Country, we're eager for your thoughts on this subject as well. What are your thoughts on the Broncos interior defensive line so far this season? Share it with us if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening wherever you get your podcast, you can send us a message on social media, on Twitter or X, whatever they call it these days, at Cody Roark NFL, at Sayre Bedinger here. But we appreciate you for taking time out of your day to listen to us, to watch us, to interact with all things Broncos Country. Thank you so much for making the show exactly what it is. Don't forget to subscribe or follow so you never miss out on a day's worth of content, news, coverage, and more every single day, all year long. Tomorrow's episode, Locked On Broncos, Sayre's going to sit down with Lauren Cox, host of the Locked On Bears podcast, for a crossover Thursday preview of Sunday's action at Soldier Field. We'll see you then.